Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 9 p.m. English news edition brought to you live from RTD channel. Headlines of tonight's are Sudanese Prime Minister Dr. Kamel Al Tayyib Idris arrived in Djibouti this morning for a 24 hours official visit. He was welcomed by his Djiboutian counterpart and government officials. Spain has launched a large-scale regularization program for undocumented migrants between 500,000 and 800,000 people living in that country. Those were the top stories, and welcome back in our newsroom. We begin tonight news with the presidential meeting with the Sudanese Prime Minister. This Wednesday, President Soumaïla Omar Guelleh received at the presidential palace a high-level Sudanese delegation led by Sudanese Prime Minister Dr. Kamel Al Tayyib Idris. The meeting provided an opportunity to discuss the current situation in Sudan and to reinforce the historical, cultural, and linguistic ties that unite the two countries, Djibouti and Sudan. Both sides emphasized the importance of joining effort to put in place peace in Sudan and promote stability, key conditions for sustainable regional economic integration as the country continues to suffer from the effect of years of conflict. The Sudanese delegation included the Prime Minister's advisor, Ali Mohammed Al Bufari, the Secretary General of the Prime Minister's Office, Mawai Usman, and Major General Abbas Mohammed, Deputy Director of Sudanese Security. On the Djiboutian side, attendees included the Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation spokesperson of the government, Abdul Qadir Hussein Omar, the Director General of Documentation and National Security, Hassan Saeed Khairi, the Secretary General of the Presidency, Mohammed Abdullah Wais, and the Director of the Arab World Department at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mohammed Douali. Let's recall that the meeting provided an opportunity to discuss the current situation in Sudan and to reinforce the historical ties and cultural linguistics that unite the two friendly and brotherly countries, Djibouti and Sudan. And thereafter, Sudanese Prime Minister visits Djibouti's port facilities. Sudanese Prime Minister Dr. Kamel Al Tayyib Idris conducted a field visit to the Continental Terminal Management Company and the Dorale Multipurpose port following his arrival in Djibouti at the office at the official invitation of President Soumaïla Omar Guelleh. He was welcomed by the chairperson of the Port and Free Zones Authority of Abu Bakr Omar Hadi. The visit began at the Continental Terminal where Dr. Kamal Al Tayyib Idris and his delegation received detailed briefings from senior company officials on the terminal's operational capacities and its central role in supporting the national economy and boosting regional and international trade. The Sudanese Prime Minister then visited the Dorale Multipurpose Port where he observed the range of services offered by this strategic facility and its vital contribution to the transport and logistics sector, reinforcing Djibouti's position as a regional maritime trade hub. Let's not forget that the visit underscores the deep historical and fraternal ties between Djibouti and Sudan and the commitment of both countries to strengthen bilateral cooperation in areas of common interest. Accompanying the Sudanese Prime Minister were the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation spokesperson of the government, Abdul Qadir Hussein Omar, the Sudanese ambassador to Djibouti, Mohammed Saeed, and members of the Sudanese delegation. After a day working visit to Djibouti, Sudanese Prime Minister Dr. Kamel Al Tayyib departed the capital on Wednesday afternoon to return to Sudan. During his visit, he was received by President Soumaïla Omar Guelleh, with whom he discussed the strong ties of friendship and cooperation that unite the two countries, Djibouti and Sudan, as well as key regional, continental, and international issues. The visit also included a tour of Djibouti's port infrastructure, highlighting the country's development experience and the importance of the port sector to the national economy. At the Djibouti International Airport, he was accompanied by Djibouti's Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohamed. Both sides reaffirmed their commitment to further strengthen bilateral relations and fraternal cooperation between the two countries. Concerning now the National Assembly, in accordance with Article 52 of the Constitutions, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Dileita Mohamed Dileita, presided over the fifth public session of the second ordinary session of the ninth legislature on Wednesday, January 26, 2026. The session was attended by Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohamed, members of the government, and all parliamentarians. And at the opening of the session, the Speaker of the National Assembly welcomed government and parliamentary members before presenting the agenda, which focused mainly on reviewing Bill number 187 of the 9th Legislature for 2025 on rural electrification, examining 10 bills concerning the approval of financial accounts of several public institutions for the 2023 fiscal year, including the Djiboutian Agency for Social Development, the National Printing House, Djibouti Radio and Television, the National Institute of Public Administration, the Agency for Urban Rehabilitation and Social Housing, the Multi-Sector Regulatory Authority, the Center for the Purchase of Medicines and Basic Supplies, the National Agency for Government Information Systems, the Djiboutian Center for Studies and Research, and the University of Djibouti as well. And during the debates, several parliamentarians raised a question regarding the accuracy of financial statements, administrative and budgetary management of the institutions, as well as transparency, accountability, and good governance. Government members provided all necessary explanation on budgetary, accounting, and organizational aspect of the bills. And after discussion, all bills on the agenda were adopted by a wide majority. And during the parliamentary session, several members of parliament raised questions to the government regarding the accuracy of financial data, administrative and budgetary management of institutions, and the application of transparency, accountability, and good governance principles. Let's follow.
What is the current status and exact situation of these projects focusing on promoting rural electrification? That was a whole host of questions, so I will try to answer them generally regarding the entire rural electrification bill. It is a first in Djibouti today that we can debate and pass this rural electrification law in the Assembly. As we all know, this is the very backbone of the electricity sector and also of access to electricity for our most remote citizens in the most remote villages of the country. As you all know, access to electricity is one of the priorities of the Djiboutian government and Vision 2035. Most of the questions have been answered in the Commission, but I will try to provide more details. As you all know, in Djibouti, we only had one power plant built, the solar power plant. First in 2012 in Ali Adde. This Ali Adde power plant was not designated for the Djiboutian people. It was a power plant designated for the refugee villages of Ali Adde. The first solar power plant for a village was initiated in 2016 in Adailu. From 2016 to 2026, we have tried to expand, build, and provide access to electricity for our fellow citizens in more than 8 villages. Today, we have villages under construction and villages that already access to electricity.
In Parliament, MPs question government ministers on the performance and future of key public agencies, including the Djiboutian Agency for Social Development and Housing project. Let's follow.
Madame la Ministre, Est-ce que la DDS
Madam Minister, will the ADDS regain its full essence? It is functional. Can it, how shall I say, regain its scope? Today, the head of state has a vision. His vision is clear: to make territories, departments, and regions territories of equal standing. Basic social infrastructure have been built by ADDS, Mr. Abdel Isse. If you go out in the regions, you will see that the ADDS is still functional. That's to answer your questions. The regional deputy can attest to this, and they are the best advocates for the ADDS today. I have found Parliament, and I also thank Parliament. Everyone really agrees with that. And now, if you are staying in the capital and in the municipality that's important to you, Mr. Abdel Isse, I have listened to you, so listen to my answer. The municipality of Barbara, which is important to you, what happened last Thursday proves that ADDS exists and ADDS will continue to exist. And if you have any ideas, we are ready to consider them. Thank you. What is the exact amount of the debt actually attributable to Arulas today, and over what period it is effective repayment planned without compromising the new social housing project? Regarding the land debt, what we call the agency's land debt is that there are plots of lands that are allocated to the agency so that it can carry out the work. These plots of land therefore include what are called the transferable square meters, meaning they can be sold, and the square meters that are allocated to roads and all social and commercial infrastructure. So once this calculation is done, the agency recovers the amount per transferable square meters from the individuals acquiring the land, and this debt is gradually reduced as this recovery is made. You can understand that a real estate project takes time and is not completed in a few months but takes years, and therefore this debt is not toxic. It is a very healthy debt that can be repaid once the funds are recovered.
In his address, Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed highlighted the quality of parliamentary debates and the high level of responsibility demonstrated during the review of bills presented to the National Assembly. Let's turn now to the Prime Minister's remarks.
Conformément à nos principes et nos coutumes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Member of Parliament, dear colleagues, I commend the quality and rigor of the parliamentary work carried out in this Assembly, and I am pleased to note that the debates on the bills on the agenda are taking place in a spirit of responsibility and transparency. The examination of the bill on rural electrification fully illustrates the government's vision of bringing electricity closer to rural areas and guaranteeing equitable access for all citizens. Similarly, the discussions on the approval of the financial statements of public institutions is a key moment for evaluating the budgetary, administrative, and organizational management of our institutions. We in the government are committed to answering each of your questions precisely and in detail in order to strengthen citizens' trust in our institutions and consolidate the principles of good governance, transparency, and accountability. I commend the commitment of all members of Parliament and members of the government to this process and reiterate our shared commitment to working in the best interests of the nation by implementing the broad guidelines set forth by His Excellency the President of the Republic.
In his closing remarks, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Dileita Mohamed Dileita, announced the conclusion of the plenary session and the second ordinary session for the year 2025.
Monsieur le ministre, Mesdames et Messieurs, honorables députés, nous venons d'épouser l'agenda de cette sixième et dernière séance publique.
Ladies and gentlemen of the government, dear fellow member of parliament, as we come to the end of this fifth ordinary sessions of the 2025, which opened on October 1st, I would like to commend the quality and intensity of the parliamentary work accomplished, the regular holding of committee meetings, thematic workshops, and conferences of the chairpersons has enabled the adoption of approximately 70 laws in plenary session, reflecting the commitment and professionalism of everyone involved. This session was also marked by the regular and timely representation of the financial statements of the public institutions, illustrating the tangible result of a dynamic initiated by the head of state and coordinated by the government. I therefore congratulate all the members of parliament, the members of the government, and the Finance, General Economy and Planning Committee for their involvement and diligence. I would like to express my particular gratitude to the members of the parliament for their active participation, not only in plenary session and committee meetings, but also within the caucus of women parliamentarians and during specialized workshops, thus contributing to the national and international standing of our assembly. Finally, as the elections approach, I urge everyone to strengthen ties with our fellow citizens during the intercession period in order to present the major national priority and support the vision and candidacy of His Excellency the President of the Republic. With these recommendations, I declare this public session and the fifth ordinary session of the 2025 closed.
Moving on now to Mogadishu, where the Djibouti's Minister of Economy and Finances in charge of industry, Ilyas Musa Dawali, attends a Horn of Africa Finance meeting in the capital of Somalia. Mogadishu hosted the 27th meeting of finance ministers from the Horn of Africa on Wednesday, marking a diplomatic success for the Somali Federal Republic. Djibouti was represented by the Minister of Economy and Finance in charge of industry, Ilyas Musa Dawali, leading a high-level delegation. Also attending were finance ministers from Ethiopia, Sudan, and South Sudan, as well as senior officials from the region and representative from the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD. International development partners, including the European Union, World Bank, African Development Bank, and the United Kingdom, also participated. The meeting was chaired by Somali Finance Minister Bihi Iman, who welcomed the delegation and outlined a long-term strategic vision for the region. He emphasized the importance of transforming fragile border areas into dynamic economic hub to stimulate development and regional integration. Discussion also focused on energy infrastructure and finding sustainable solutions to the region's severe electricity deficit. Minister Ilyas Musa Dawali did not fail to praise Somalia's progress, noting that the country now has a responsible government deserving of both regional and international support. Let's come back now to the capital, where the Minister of Education and Vocational Training, Mustafa Mohamed Mahmoud, received a high-level delegation from the Global Partnership for Education, led by the Deputy Director General Charles North. The World Bank representative in Djibouti, Fatou Fall, introduced the delegation to the minister, who warmly welcomed them. The meeting gave the minister an opportunity to present the major achievements of his ministry through the PRUDA project, co-funded by the World Bank and the Global Partnership for Education. He highlighted improved access to basic education, advances in teaching practices, and the strengthening of the ministry's administrative capacities. The Minister of National Education also detailed the construction of schools, cafeterias, and student housing, the free provision of textbooks and school uniforms in rural areas, as well as teacher training and the inclusion of the most vulnerable children. These achievements were praised by Charles North, who encouraged the minister to share Djibouti's experience with neighboring countries facing similar challenges. He confirmed that the continued support of the Global Partnership for Education, with substantial funding for the continuation of the PRODA project launched in 2020. As part of Djibouti Vision 2035, the project aims to increase access to education. This morning, the Sheraton Hotel hosted the official workshop launching the project, known as Integrated Climate Change Adaptation into Planning and Budgeting Process in Djibouti. The session was chaired by the Minister of Environment and Sustainable Development, Mohamed Abdul Qadir Musa Hilem, and attended by the UNFD resident representative in Djibouti, the Secretary General of the Ministry, and representative of regional authorities. The project, also known as the National Action Plan for Climate Change Adaptation, is a structuring initiative for the country's future. Climate change is no longer a distant risk or a theoretical scientific issue. Djibouti is already affected, facing structural vulnerability, including water scarcity and repeated droughts and floods. As a signatory of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and the Paris Agreement, The Republic of Djibouti is committed to fulfilling its obligation by developing key strategic tools for adaptation and resilience. Taking the floor, the Minister of Environment and Sustainable Development, Mohamed Abdul Qadir Musa Hilam, emphasized that the launch of the National Climate Adaptation Project represents a decisive step in Djibouti's commitment to combating the effect of climate change. He explained that the project aims to fully integrate climate adaptation into the country's planning and budgeting process, ensuring that all decisions consider both the resilience of communities and the sustainable management of natural resources. He noted that Djibouti is already experiencing recurrent drought, floods, and water scarcity, highlighting the urgent need for proactive measures. Health now, the Ministry of Health has organized a mobile eye surgery unit at Al Sabiha Regional Hospital. A similar campaign will be held in the capital and across the country, targeting hundreds of elderly patients. The initiative is financially supported by the Islamic Solidarity Fund for Development and is part of Djibouti's national program to combat blindness. Under the leadership of Dr. Ibrahim, an ophthalmologist at the Ministry of Health, hundreds of seniors benefited from a free eye consultation and cataract surgeries. To oversee the initiative, a delegation led by the prefect of the region, Abdul Malik Mohammed Benoita, the president of the regional council, Shamake Hassan Alali, visited Dr. Ahmed Absi in Rasmeh Regional Hospital, where the surgeries were taking place. They were welcomed by the acting director general of the hospital, Mohammed Miguel Hassan. Many elderly patients, accompanied by family members, waited in the ophthalmology department. And after a pre-surgical assessment, more than 150 seniors underwent cataract surgery during the campaign. And as part of the ongoing effort to strengthen military and security cooperation between Djibouti and the United States, a large-scale joint training exercise was held today near the Mariama firing range. The exercise involved the Djiboutian Rapid Intervention Battalion and members of the U.S. military forces. The maneuvers were conducted under the direct supervision of Brigadier General Matthew Brown, commander of the Combined Joint Task Force Horn of Africa, and attended by senior Djiboutian and U.S. military officials. The exercise was part of the activities outlined in the bilateral action plan and reflects the strengths of the strategic partnership between the two countries in defense and security. The training included combat drills, marksmanship techniques, unit coordination, tactical discipline, and the exchange of operational procedures and best practices. These activities enhance operational readiness and reinforce mutual trust between the partner units. The Mariama firing range developed through bilateral cooperation provides a strategic framework for building the capabilities of Djibouti's armed forces. Let's listen now to the General Matthew Brown.
My impressions of this training were exceptionally good. This is real military training that is developing a security capability that is good for the entirety of the Republic of Djibouti. We just saw a company from the Rapid Intervention Battalion begin an offensive operation to get after terrorist groups. And they were presented with several challenges along the way. And just watching them for the last several hours, they reacted exceptionally well. I've done this kind of training for the last 30 years, along with a lot of my teammates. And it's this tremendously great opportunity with the strategic partnership we have with the BIR and the Djiboutian Armed Forces writ large to work together, share some of the expertise that we have, and because we're neighbors and are hosted by the country here in Djibouti, essentially work with our Djiboutian partners to share some of the lessons and continue to grow this real important security capability. This has been ongoing for a couple of days and will continue for several more. What's real important is it's continuous. So the entirety of this training that's got a large part of the Rapid Intervention Battalion out here never really slows down. It's just like other real, deployed military operations. It's continuous over a 24-hour period. That stresses every individual soldier and the entirety of the battalion in lots of important ways, and it's from that kind of pressure that the battalion continues to grow.
In Tajura now, our customs officers in the region, in coordination with the National Army and the police, seized 2,900 kilograms of smuggled cat in Dorwa area. Following the operation, the confiscated goods were immediately destroyed on site. The authorities also seized the vehicles used for smuggling, while the smugglers managed to flee the scene. The Director General of Customs, Guled Ahmed Yusuf, did not fail to praise all the force involved in the operation. Turning now to the world news, the Spanish government announced a decision to regularize the status of undocumented workers who have lived in Spain for at least 5 months before December 31st, 2025, including asylum seekers. Participants must have no criminal records and will initially receive a 1-year legal residence permit. The Nigerian army released 11 hostages, 5 men, 3 women, and 3 children held for 92 days in Kaduna State. So that's it for tonight's news. Thanks for being with us. Stay tuned for more program on our TV channel.